Time now for our monthly economics lesson. Mervin Jebaraj, economist with the Walton College of Business's Center for Business and Economic Research, joins us. Welcome back. Let's get straight to jobs numbers. The July report for Arkansas shows a still very low 3.4% unemployment rate, Mervin, but perhaps more importantly, good job growth, about 9,100 net new jobs between June and July. I'm going to put this in the category of good news, right?
Absolutely, I would agree with you there. It's the record low unemployment for the third straight month. So those are good, signs for the economy as a whole here in Arkansas. And like you mentioned, about 9,100 jobs on a month-over-month basis. And looking at payroll employment in particular on a year-over-year basis, that was 32,000 jobs added in the last year. And in particular, we've seen, again, some of those sectors we've talked about repeatedly, strong growth in professional business services, and in the healthcare sector, which, as we've mentioned, is a little more volatile on a policy basis, but we're happy to see strong growth there. The fastest growing sector on a year-over-year basis, this obviously being summer, was the leisure and hospitality industry. Again, that's a positive for Arkansas because we are, after all, the natural state, and we want to see some of our big industry in leisure and hospitality doing well, promoting tourism in this state. So all in all, great news. What I want to see going forward is more of this low unemployment rate persisting for a few more months or even another year. You won't hear me complain about it.
And we are through the second quarter earnings season for the most part. What does the data tell us about corporate America, consumer spending health, key industry segments, and other areas?
I think what we're seeing in the corporate earnings data so far is that 80% of those who reported in the S&P 500 reported earnings that beat analysts' expectations. So that is particularly great news. And there are several reasons why that's happening, and one in particular is that the U.S. economy has been growing for 98 straight months now. So I know it sounds like I'm talking about a baby in terms of months of the economic expansion, but that's currently the third longest economic expansion in U.S. history, at least since we started keeping record in about 1850s. So, that is what, a big part of what's driving the corporate earnings growth that we've seen. The other piece of this is a weak U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar is weak in particular because some of the broader policy agenda issues in Washington, D.C. regarding corporate tax reform and an infrastructure bill haven't happened so far. Those things would have driven up the deficit, pushed up U.S. Treasury yields. Neither of those things have happened. The deficit hasn't been driven up. Treasury yields are down, so the U.S. dollar is weaker, which is improving our export picture. And our trading partners in Europe and in the Asia-Pacific region are seeing economic growth as well. Europe in particular has seen 14 consecutive months or so of economic growth, not like the 98 that we have here in the United States, but it's nice to see our trading partners doing well, and their doing well helps us earn more money off of them as well. So that's one of the biggest reasons we're seeing this big corporate earnings report this cycle. The sectors that are doing well, in particular, technology is right on top there, and then followed by healthcare, which in spite of all of the policy uncertainty has done really well in the second quarter. So going forward, that's what I'd like to see more of. I'm glad to see that sectors like real estate and financial activities are not what's driving this recovery like they did in the 2000s, and that's what gave us the boom and the bust. So I'm seeing more market fundamentals running this economy in terms of where the jobs are being created and what's driving the economy.
Lots to keep up with on that front. All right, let's talk super project ramifications. Arkansas vying for a $1.6 billion Toyota Mazda auto factory. May still be a long shot, but what do facilities like this do for a regional and a state economy?
Well, it's always dangerous asking an economist about talking about incentives for super projects, because we'll start talking about zero-sum game and how, companies just shop for these projects in different states. But let me, I'm not blind to the realities on the ground. Let me say that a region could benefit from a project like this, especially if they're willing to turn some of the short-term boom that they get from the business investment and the jobs and grow it into something sustainable so that they invest the dollars that they get back into their economy and grow other industries so they're not just relying on this one super project that was brought in. But from a broader perspective, I think, since the recession, we've seen a lot of states spend a lot of money. I've seen some estimates, something like $80 billion has been spent across the states in incentives to either lure these types of jobs in or keep existing businesses within the state boundaries, and handing out these incentives are rather expensive in that sense. When we think about what we want to do with limited public dollars, we want to spend them on things that bring us the biggest benefits. So if a study is performed and we note that the incentives provided to these companies are indeed the biggest benefit to the state, then that's what we should do. But I think you would find that if you invested in infrastructure or workforce development skills or higher education, your returns are more long-term, more sustainable. I do think that at some point we're going to see, hopefully, states take a step back and understand that, at some point the companies know which states they want to go to, and states are going to spend millions of dollars trying to get a company to come there, even though they might already have been going to that state. And so you could argue that those dollars are rather wasted and just given away. A good model, I think, would be what Missouri and Kansas are trying right now with regards to Kansas City. They've had a lot of wars back and forth between those two states to move companies just a few miles across the border in Kansas City. And I think they've reached some sort of impasse or an armistice, if you will, in spending incentive dollars. And so if you look at regions in Arkansas, projects going to Osceola, there are 4 states that border Osceola, Arkansas, and you could argue that those jobs that come to Osceola are evenly spread between those 4 states. So even though Arkansas might be paying, or Mississippi might be paying for all of the incentive money, the jobs actually spread evenly between those states. So there's some opportunity for a compact to prevent companies from sort of shopping around and trying to go to the highest bidder and then benefiting from all the states around and not just the one state.
And politics can play a big role in where these super projects go to. In 2017, your center did a study to measure the economic impact of the late, great Frank Broyles when he retired from the University of Arkansas. For folks who don't recall that report, what were some of the big takeaways? What could you say were Frank Broyles' economic contributions to Arkansas?
Well, let me start by saying that we're only measuring some of his contributions. Frank Broyles' contributions to the state of Arkansas, to football in general, are probably immense. And him as a person and the number of people whose lives he's touched, there's no way we could measure all of that. But when he was retiring in 2007, we thought it'd be a nice retirement gift to give him an economic impact of Frank Broyles report. And so we looked at his 50-year span here at the University of Arkansas, and we came up with a number. His economic impact was about $2.9 billion in 2007. About $600 million of that was construction, and if you look at pictures of what the University of Arkansas campus was in 1958 and what it was in 2007 when we performed the study, you'd see the dramatic improvement in both academic buildings and athletic facilities. So that's what contributes to some of that $600 million figure that we're talking about. And about $2.2 billion was, visitor spending coming to the games. Fan attendance has grown during this time period as the football program in particular has grown, so has basketball and baseball as well. So all of those dollars coming in, about $2.2 billion over that time, is what sustains what would be the state's only entertainment district on Dixon Street in Fayetteville. They have slow months in the summer, and the football games in the fall help make up for those slow months. It's not just the restaurants, the bars, the hotels, and the retail venues as well. So it all adds to the quality of life that you have up here in Northwest Arkansas, and the Razorback games are a big, big part of it.
And I've probably contributed to that Dixon Street economy, but we are not going to go there. All right, he is Mervin Jebaraj, economist with the Walton College of Business's Center for Business and Economic Research. Good stuff, and thanks as always.
Thank you, Rebbe.